Heir
Hmm.
and list live where we get the bench race with the world's top drag racers. My name is Bill Pratt. It's awesome to be with you tonight. And tonight I'm really excited. The rightful heir to the Rat Fink franchise, Jeff DeGrandis, is on with us to talk about hot rod art, his history in cartoon TV, and lots more. Before we bring Jeff in, let's go to John. John,
We're
how are
doing
you
great
doing,
here,
sir?
BP, and howdy from Houston, everybody. Please join us on the live chat. The chat board is on the right side of your YouTube window. Tell us who you are and where you're from. I'll take notes and I'll pass your questions and comments along to BP and Jeff.
Thank you, John. And folks, before we get started, be sure to click the like and click the share button. Let your friends know we have Jeff DeGrandis here live. And to prove it, let's bring him in. Jeff
Hey, Bill,
DeGrandis,
how you
welcome to the
doing? It's great
show.
to be with you here tonight. It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you and John. And it's like you've been doing this for so long and having so much fun, and it's like it's a real honor to be here with you. A
Well,
real honor. And
thank you,
thank you for
sir.
having me. Hmm.
We're going to have so much fun. We are just chatting before the show, and it's going to be amazing. So, holy cow, you got the Rat Fink behind you. You're the legit guy for Rat Fink these days. And tell us,
Well,
how did you kind of get started with that whole thing back in the day?
well, actually, you know, up to speed right now. Eileen Roth is Ed's wife. She takes care of overseeing everything Rat Fink, of course, but it started out with like
Mhm.
what a lot of us guys did in grammar school, where we discover Ed Roth and all that monster car stuff. I discovered it like around 1966 in grammar school in the back of Hot Rod magazine. It had those little ads from Maywood, California. And I just said,
Uh-huh.
wow. I said, look at those. Those are the greatest drawing. I said, I got to start drawing those. So I've been drawing those things just like a lot of the other, my friends and, with the Rat Fink family is for about I don't know 60 almost 60 years now.
That's amazing. I mean, we all did it, but you got super good. I mean, I used to draw funny cars on notebook paper. I guess this was the 70s. But I had all the models. I mean, you had other little I guess they were
Yeah,
little other sorts of model cars they had were like stretched vets. I can't remember the name of that one. They weren't the deals wheels, but they were all very cool.
into model cars as well, and all its popular cars, like the Beatnik Bandit and
Hmm.
the Mysterian and all that stuff was, you had to have that. Brother Rat Fink, and all that.
Yeah.
Everyone wants Brother Rat Fink, so
Yeah.
it's good. But that's the kind of stuff that's cool, and it's still cooler than ever. And then as years went on, I've had the pleasure of Ed Big Daddy Roth, Rat Fink family through Eileen, through friends of mine that were in animation with me. My buddy Ken Mitroni, was one of the guys I was working with at Disney, introduced me to Eileen, and things came to be, and I became one of the artists for for the rest.
That is so cool.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, my mind goes back to those mags of the day, and the is in the back of a mag, and it says every one of those like Rat Fink like characters on the different types of cars. So if you want one for a Roadrunner, one for a Camaro, one for a
Hmm.
Chevelle, pretty much, so
Yeah, it's go to the school library and you just start drawing that, and that's how that went. And
right.
know, that's it was a blast. It was
That
a
is so cool.
blast,
Yeah,
and
that's the cool thing about being a motorhead is when I was a freshman back in the days when freshmen were like this tall and seniors were that tall.
hmm.
That's how I got hazed, man. Kid, draw me. I, didn't have to like pull my pants down in front of an auditorium or anything like some of the kids,
Yeah, you
just
know what? And you know what? And it's all cool art though. It's all cool. And I always say, it's like, there's a good group of us, all my Rat Fink friends and stuff like that, that are, with Eileen and everyone. It's like everyone's got their cool style,
uh-huh.
and it's like, and that's what makes it so cool. It's like, who it is that you're painting or drawing, and
Yeah.
and and you get to enjoy everyone's style, and it's all good all the time, and it's like it's exciting and it's just weird and wild and great.
Do you guys
So.
have it where you pretty much, I've even seen it with photographers online, and I recognize them myself with me. But you can really tell, wow, that's Mike Diddy's work,
Hmm.
for instance. So that's an L&M photo or a Reyes photo.
Hmm.
Can you guys in character?
We see so much of our friends' work that they do, mine included. We can tell who does what art and what, whether they're using a heavy airbrush with it. And some of my good buddies, back to the early days of the early 60s,
Right.
with airbrush t-shirts, and you're watching them do it. And
Yeah.
that's where the real beauty is watching people do their craft, you know what I mean?
Right.
And artwork. And it's just, that's cool, and yeah, we can tell. We can tell.
That's I had my airbrush t-shirt from the Cleveland Autorama. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, never get rid of that. You
Yeah,
gotta
well,
keep it.
that's that one may be gone, but it's been a long, long
You know
time.
what?
But maybe it's here
It might
somewhere.
be standing up in the corner somewhere.
Yeah. It could have stood up by itself the day I got it. That airbrush sort of. Well, you're actually, I mean, we'll talk a lot more about art. We got all night. Where you came up from, because everybody thinks about you as a California guy, but that's not where you came up, right?
No, I'm actually New Jersey, in the Asbury Park on the other coast, central New Jersey shore, Leon and all that. But during high school, I started driving December's car, the 68 Camaro, Englishtown, Raceway Park in Englishtown. So that I watched as a younger child was the 72 Summer Nationals.
Wow.
I think was my first time.
What a race. What a season. What a race. The venues.
Yeah, I know. And then time went on and this and that, and we're always at the drags. And then you get your license, you got your car, you got to build your hot rod, and you take it to the track, and you got to run it. And then that's when I ran
Right.
bracket racing. Was ran stock eliminator first. I ran it was a 68 with a 327, and it was automatic.
Yeah.
It was power glide, and ran 14 seconds, 14 and change, I guess.
It's legit.
It did well, and in the heads, and with my buddies and stuff, and it was like hot rod time, and it's like. Then we're running brackets now, and that was a lot of fun. Is how it goes. So
I love it. I was like, I graduated in '76. I think we're right in the same era.
Me too. I graduated in '76. So
when Mark Powell was the big dog at the track at the time. But so cool. Well, let's take a couple seconds and check in with John. John, who's out there on the chat line, and say hello to us.
Right now we have 11 people watching this show, and we have one guy that's made a comment.
Howdy, Jack.
Great to have you with us. And he says hi, everyone. And then I made a post and said, let us know y'all are here. And he said, where would you like the plane to go? No, not yet. Maybe 6 more beers.
Bruce Larson's place this weekend. So anyway, send us your questions.
Wow. Jim Sanders in St.
Howdy, Jim.
Jim's
good. Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Nephew of Kurt Wasson, the superstitious funny car driver, if you remember that car, the Chevy
I do.
car.
I do.
Kay Thurkelson just showed up. She says, good evening.
Howdy, Kay.
Hey, Kay. How are you?
She's making a tribute to her parents tonight.
Yep, excited about that.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
Cool. Well, ask us your drag racing art question, guys and gals, or share it us, huh?
Yeah, I know that everyone drew in their note in your homework, but still you're drawing all those rat things, aren't you?
I was doing that, and I would flip the page and I was writing my top 10 funny cars, in pencil and notebook paper too. That's
and then did you ever do
started.
And crash into the wall? You know what I mean? With your math book or something.
Early movies.
That was always fun. Yeah, make your own movies in your math
I love
book.
it. Well, we got to, at some point tonight, I'm going to get John and you talking a little bit about art together too, because obviously John's our resident art director. Unpaid, of course. Everybody's a volunteer like every single week, which is pretty amazing.
I love how it's all laid out and everything. It just looks really cool. Really cool.
Thanks. Well, we got John on mute. John kindly puts himself on mute while he's typing the answers back to folks, so we don't hear the clickety clack in our ears.
Yeah, I go between mute and unmute. Thank you for that compliment, Jeff. For the year, and I combine it all into one graphic, and I just show it as the combined graphics for 20 doing that.
Nice. Oh, well, that's all that goes through too a lot.
You're saying something now. You can really see well, but it's a teeny little, but it's cool stuff.
Excellent.
Well,
excellent.
Jeff, you got some of your stuff with you, right? How about your stuff?
Yeah, that sounds hard. I have laying around, and could be times, you guys have seen us when I did for tonight anyway. You know what I mean? So you have that drawing stuff. So you have all this stuff you want down there, but it's all parts, the real cars.
Yeah.
So you can put that all together, and you can really make a drag car out of that stuff, But then, I was showing this before, but what? I've been liking to do some. Let's see. All right, everyone at home, help me do this. Oh, you guys at home, remember that Nash Metropolitan? That's probably the most recent one. Is this guy?
I love it.
Right, on a straight axle car.
41 Willis and
slicks on there, and it's got all the those people are really real back there at all. All right, and then here's one-eyed Jack, I call it. This one I did quite a while ago. I think I posted this years ago.
I dig the sideburns, man. That's very cool. Check out the detail. And Double A Funny Wagon, I love it. The detail.
I don't know, American Graffiti fans here, and you know, you guys have probably seen that before too.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, that was a fun one to do. And,
Milner
some one shot there. What else?
Right.
And I don't know, and more Gasser stuff. 2015.
injector stacks, beautiful.
Willie's on the other side there, so
Gotcha.
it's
This
fun
guy,
doing stuff like
this
that.
guy's a little
make
different looking. What?
Yeah. But anyway, so that's kind of some of the Ren and Stimpy show. It's like,
I love it.
oops.
Yeah. TV, right? I mean, obviously, well, we're kind of going out of order here, but what were
That's
some
okay.
shows you worked on? In?
Oh, gosh, I've been 9. I was commuting back and forth in New Jersey to California for about 2 years or so. But I started off on Ren and Stimpy was my first TV, and then it went on to Disney and DreamWorks and countless shows. I guess Hanna-Barbera, and about 900 to 1,000 separate episodes in my career
what's
so
the current
far.
state of the art, at least the way you did it? Because back in the day, it was all hand drawn. Is it? What are we doing these days to create these cartoons?
There's a lot of CG stuff, but you know what? I always say there's some hand-drawn stuff I worked on, and where it was hand-drawn, but a lot of it's digitally colored,
right?
Because you can't do all the painting of cells. That's done, but now it's it's digitally colored. Even a lot of the backgrounds are digitally done, it depends on the project. I always say it depends. What is the project asking for? Is it going to be good hand drawn? Is it animated? But I say it's case by case of what's going to look the best. What is that project asking for? Me personally, I always like I like hand drawn stuff because I like the human error, and it brings a charm to the drawings. So it depends what you're working with.
That's so cool, Jeff. Do you like a director who sort of sets the vibe and asks you and the writers and everything how he or she wants it to come together?
Yeah, it's starts off with the concept, and vision, and you put your group together, and you have storyboard artists, and you have your script that's written by the writers, and records and designing all happens up front, and then you go ahead and you start producing the show and getting the animation done in this thing. But it goes on for quite a long time. For an average 11-minute show, it could take up to 10 months. But there's a lot of shows being made at one time in that season. That like every 2 or 3 weeks there may be a new show that starts, and then it stair steps up so that the last one that you start with comes back first from animation. So it's like a stair step deal.
Is that a challenge with the continuity, or do you see it that way? Do you see your individual piece by piece?
I think they're all separate episodes, so each one might have different characters in them. But if you Bob or something, that you're going to use the same star characters, but they might have other friends that come on that are designed that are going to be that may have be only in that particular picture. You know what I mean? But maybe down the road you might use them again, so they've been designed already and all that. So as far as continuity goes, I would say as long as you stay with the model and stay with the what do you call it, the overtone of the show, the way it looked, the backgrounds, where it takes place, and keep that all intact. People know that it's all the same show that's in that series.
Right. Oh, it's so cool. I mean, there was, my kids are in their young 30s now. So that means we came up through that renaissance of cartoons on Cartoon Network, and, the Ren and Stimpy era, I guess it was the 90s, right? And it's just, because cartoons had gone to a thing where, I mean, I think back to like Scooby-Doo's and stuff where it was kind of like they basically just had like the same characters just and put them into moving scenery, and it was, I mean, obviously it was effective, but I knew they were churning out a ton of those. But
you're talking about like panning, like when you're doing the pans when they're running and stuff. Well, you might have 5. It might be like 3 or 4 or 5 fields, but it all connects if you were to put it together. So you'll see the same stuff going by, which is for a lot of people notice, like, hey, they passed by that table like 5 times already. You know what I mean? But you know what though? It's for the story, because they're running from something, and like your Scooby-Doo's is usually some monster in the big giant mansion. You know what I mean? And it's like, Ruby, we gotta get out of here, right? And it's like, let's start running.
It's all the classics. F8 Phantom. That
we can have a whole show about talking about like all that cool stuff. You know what I mean? And it's
but
your early 90s stuff, I did some work on for Hanna-Barbera on Yeah,
Big fan.
Johnny Bravo, you know, and
Yeah, big fan. I
yeah,
love
and
them all.
so
But I would have missed out. They're
yeah,
great because they were not just for
but
kids, you know.
no, because we're naked adults, Bill. We're just
That
naked
is
adults.
absolutely
Yeah,
right.
work that goes into it, and but it is so. And the talent keeps coming and
Well,
coming and
it
coming, and
shows.
there's so many great people out there doing great work, you know. So and it just it evolves with like everything evolves, you know.
Yeah,
So
so
but
cool. Well,
yeah.
let's check in on some other fake adults. Anybody out there, John, wants to
Oh yeah, here's
ask a
the
Yes,
dog.
question or
Kay
say hello?
Kay Thurkelson
Oh, there we
asked.
go.
She said, "Mr. Drag, the honor of meeting Big Daddy Ed Roth."
You want me to answer?
Yeah,
Yes.
go for it.
Yes, I did, and I met. Um, I was showing my car at the Asbury Park Custom Car Show, and someone came. It was up. You know who's downstairs? It's Big Daddy Ross downstairs, and I'm just like, wow, I gotta go. Like, I'm
Yeah.
just gone. And I met Van Nuys when we were living in California. You know what I mean? So the first time was in 1976. Yes, I
Who I
have.
thought was him, like just sitting there with all kinds of people around, like doing some art for somebody that had like spot commissioned, like at some show. And I
Hmm.
couldn't. I was flipping out because I'm a little bit of a border collie anyway. I'm like, oh my god, don't hit his arm or whatever. But he was just so chill. He was in the zone and just doing his thing, and blocked everything
Yeah,
out.
yeah, that's what it's about, and that's like a lot of things now. It's like, and I'll get back to that. It's like the car shows I've recently gotten into now too. With I've been, I took another tour for the last few years.
Mhm.
Doing a lot of fine art and stuff. And trying to figure out, hey, what am I? Johnny Martinez, who's a great pinstriper. I had gone to his garage and he says, why don't you come and get your stuff set up? Because the last thing I did was Moonized years and years and years and years
Mhm.
and years ago. And he says, get your stuff together and come with me to the car shows. And I started doing it, but that's drawing live like Ed did, or he painted, you know what I mean? And people like to watch. You like to watch,
Right.
people like to watch what's being created, and they're just standing there, and it's like it's really cool because you're entertaining them, and it's cool to talk to everyone too. They talk about the cars, and we get to talk to them about
Right.
their cars, and it's just it all just comes together. And by the time you're done, we call it fluorescent paint on there, like they did in the early days,
Yeah.
and they still do now, and it's after I'm done with my black and white drawing, it's like, here you go, and it's like, wow, and they really dig it, and it was fun doing it for them, fun talking, because I like to learn a lot about the people and all the folks that I'm doing work for. I'd like to know what they're about too, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
that it's important for me too to know where they're from, and what makes their clock tick, and it's like, and by the time you're done, you do the next one, can draw Willie's Coupe with me with this in it and
Yeah.
that, and draw a dragster funny car,
Yeah.
and it goes on and on. I like this Pro Stock. Can you put a snorkel scoop on here from 1977? Yeah,
Yeah.
here you go. Do a tunnel ram on it with two giant
Yeah.
volleys, and it's huge. It's
Yeah.
huge, and 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 a lot of people just like, hey, can you just draw it like a regular car? And they don't want the bells and whistles. And then some of them, I said, you want me to go hog on this thing and just do my thing with it? And they go, yeah. And they put the Rat Fink on there, and here you
I
go.
love it.
You know what I mean? And so, it's I don't know, it's something that's fun to do, and and it's a blast, and you know, um, it's really good. It's really, really good. It's invigorating, and
Yeah.
it's
You're creating art and you're creating memories and making
yes,
friends.
and and I think Bill too, the memories, um, it's reminding them of another time in their life.
Right.
Sometimes a younger time, maybe in school, when they were drawing in their notebooks that at Big Daddy Roth, monster car art they see on those little
Yep.
squares in the back of Hot
Yeah.
Rod on the very last page from Maywood, California on Slauson. And it's like, send for your catalog, 25 cents
Right.
for your catalog. And so it's like, okay,
I'm there.
okay, and you're there, and it's like they I get a lot of people saying it just brought back a lot of memories, and but I get to share it. I like to share my art with people, and I like them to enjoy it, and that's what it's all about.
I love
That's
it.
my bottom
Oh,
line,
that's it.
really.
You're doing it.
It's
You're
my
doing the
bottom
world
line.
a service.
Hmm. Well, thanks. I appreciate that, and and Eileen, I gotta say again, out to Eileen and all my rafting pals, out in Manti, and it's like, it's great working with all them. Great talent, great talent, and it's like, you know, it's good, and
I
that's
love
what
it.
it's all about. Yeah, you know, and
Yeah, how about that? I
this
thought
dog.
that was
Oh,
what was the dog that used to
this
be
is
on Letterman? I
Frisky.
thought it was
Yeah,
Frisky.
Frisky. Here, take
I
here,
think.
take your pencil and go. Okay. Okay. Um. Anyway, it's like it's like the Soupy Sale show, right? A little
Yeah,
bit like,
right. Because
you know.
Frisky's a pretty good artist in his own right, I
Yeah, yeah,
recognize.
he's over there. Yeah, draw the dog kibble. That's good. Um,
John,
but
John, who else we got? Anybody else with another thought?
That was Kay's question was the last one, but I thought I'd mention I saw Ed Roth uh, making T-shirts in. Now I think it
wow.
was 62. It could have been 63, but I didn't get to meet him. But he was very into a la carte. Was right next to his booth.
Wow, George Barris's a
Wow.
la carte. Hey,
Yeah,
remember
I
making
made
that
them all, man.
model?
God,
That's a good.
I think my brother and I made 50, 60 models. I know a lot of people made a lot more. And then we disassemble them and reconfigure them. And we had, did anybody else have this? You had a box of slicks, you had a box of wheels, a box of engine parts,
Right here. Yep,
and we just,
extra slicks and all that, and you take
yeah,
sandpaper and you just sand them up a little bit, and
yeah,
and it's cool. And I don't know.
cotton balls and, take the pictures. It was the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, man, it was really cool, Or going out. I remember going out and getting like the Bill Grumpy Jenkins, his Vega, the Pro Stock
Yeah,
Vega, that was great, and I had to change, I had to sand and make the wheel wells a little bit different because SRD, at that time, um, had different type of wheel wells on them, but it didn't come in the kit. And then, yeah, you had boxes full of tunnel rams and blowers
yeah,
and injectors and all this other kind of cool stuff that, that was a whole another department on your desk was
yeah.
stuff,
You
and it's
bet.
like,
Well, I
okay,
had that
yeah.
Camaro, I had that Vega, I had the Motown Missile Challenger. I mean, you name it.
Mm.
We had the Butch Leal California Flat. I mean, that's just the pro
I had
stocks.
that too. Yeah, yeah, Pro Stock
Yeah,
Duster.
that pretty
Remember
orange
that?
one. Yeah, that was the
Yeah, and
days.
it's yeah, and then all the novelty ones too that came out, like you had like you know, what do you call
Yeah, Boot Hill
the Boot Hill
Express.
Express,
Yeah,
and you had the mailbox, you had the paddy wagon. Remember all that stuff that
right,
Monogram came out with,
right.
and it's like, oh, that was cool stuff, and like $1.99 for the box for a kit.
A pot to piss in, but they were
No,
somehow I always had models. I guess you
I know
go
you.
picking up enough pop bottles, you can get them.
Yeah, deliver papers, cut the grass, get your allowance, sweep the driveway, and then you go and take your money down and and you buy like this one, and it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. You
okay.
always had the generic AMT ones too, like the Nova with the with that the Moonraker hood. The I forget. Those are all good. And I must have had, Lord knows, that's a
I
whole
know.
other show. Models. We could have
Yeah,
model guys on it.
yeah, the model talk with Bill Pratt, model talk, so, and you could say, yeah, and then the slogan will be, don't get glue on the
Yeah,
windows
Well,
because it
yeah,
doesn't come
yeah.
off.
What would
Well,
you
y'all
so?
reminded me of when I was a teenager. I made model cars too, and it was I was totally consumed with it. I loved it. I loved painting them and building them, and I loved the way the glue smelled.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah, you know what? John, it's yeah. There's just something about making the models and the glue and the paint and all those little tester bottles, and then you had the spray
yeah,
paint,
yeah,
and it was like, yeah, that was a whole nother scene, man. Was that
yeah.
whole thing? It was great. But
Yes, it was.
yeah, and I remember, speaking of the Grump stuff again, I built the 70 his 70 Camaro. What do you call it? Carcraft magazine and Hot Rod and all the other custom books coming out. Super Stock always had
Right.
pictures of like what the undercarriages looked like with all the tubing that was custom done again over at
Mhm.
SRD and stuff. And then
Right.
Auto World would sell like all these tubes
Yeah.
and then I would go ahead and mimic that and make like this tubing for the chassis and get crazy with
Oh, you
it.
were
And
into
it's
it.
like it was
Yeah.
fun to do. And then,
Auto World
but
magazine.
anyway,
Oh my God, I
that
used to
was
spend
another
hours reading
day.
Auto
And
World. I
then
couldn't get everything, but
and
it
it's
sure
like
looked cool.
that's right. You're right. Scranton,
Oh man, see, you're
Pennsylvania.
taking us all back, Jeff. This is so cool.
Yeah, we are going back now.
So,
And it's
how
good to
did
go
you
back.
transition
And it's
when you were starting the art? So you got in, were doing it in school, we just saw your wonderful piece you put up the other day online. How did you get
that's
from
a
there
true
into the actual scene where you were actually being recognized?
that didn't. Oh, as far as drawing
Yeah,
in
well, drawing,
general,
yeah, and going into the hot rod scene. Was
uh,
the hot rod scene first, or
no.
the cartoons
The
first?
cartoons were first.
Wow.
Gosh, since for the local papers, like in 1971 and
Wow.
72. I was drawing for a couple local papers, and then like for private companies for their products and stuff like that. So, and then before I went to Cal Arts in 1980 for Anna Branch, New Jersey, Monmouth University, and started doing a lot of artwork that they hung on the wall at the local pubs down there, and it's like, and that's when people started. Then I was waiting to see what I'm going to come up with next, and then, you know, um, finally one day my dad asked me, my folks, what do you really want to do? And I said, well, I'd like to go into animation because I love animation. So that's when I went to Cal Arts from in the early 80s. And then after that, time went on again and then went into the industry, and, with the support of my family, wife, we had two kids, we moved to California and from New Jersey, and, we just did it and we just went on. And so that became
amazing.
first,
Well, I did not know that.
but yeah, yeah. But you know what, sometimes all that, it was always the hot rod stuff, always the hot rod stuff. It's not that I didn't like the hot rod, and even into the 70s it was hot rod stuff too.
Right.
My buddy, and his shop was 8 miles from our house, so you have freehold on down there, and he used to let us hang around the shop and watching. We were watching him work on at Vega, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In there, such a cool guy, and
Yeah.
the Jessels were right up the street, so we go down to CMS and hang around there for a while.
Yeah.
That little hub of happening, and then Raceway Park was all, and it was like that super hub of pro stock and modified piece of time. It really was.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, we read about it though. The Scotto and Blevins, like, didn't they have a big, like, it wasn't a 53 Chevy
55.
or something?
He had that 55 model.
Gotcha.
Scott,
Yeah,
yes.
He's in a panel truck. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Scotto and Blevins, and they were right there too. And but we started another period, and then Raceway Park, with the Naps.
Yeah, you knew the
great
Naps,
people.
right? Did you? I think you said you went to school with them.
Yeah, and I know my sister and brother did, but we became friends at Naps. We used to sit up in the tower, with Zirko Bob, and Louis Bloom was up there too, and
My buddy.
and we used to go up there and just sit around and and have a great time up in that Englishtown Tower,
Louis,
it was
Louis
great.
is the guy
It
who
was
got me
great.
started in drag racing, honestly.
Yeah, he's a great guy, but but that whole thing, and and it's but it was a really good time, and
those are 2 pro stock shows a month, if not weekly, and then you had the all the funny car events that were up there. Just
that pro stock bonanza they used to have, and it was like, I have so many pictures I took, and the pro, what was it, 32 funny cars that are on both sides of the track. It was like,
wow, a lot of inspiration.
This is
and
cool.
Jack Red, who's we talked to him briefly earlier, he used to put on the pro fuel circuit, and obviously a lot of time in Englishtown and Maple Grove.
Yeah, no doubt, and it's it was like I said, I think that's where a lot of inspiration comes from for my drawing too, is still memories drawn to blown funny cars and stuff that I do, and whatever it is, it's like the blowers might not be as tall as that, but
it's a
they still work though, you know what I mean?
And you got it all right.
Yeah, it's a caricature, so it does work,
iconic.
So it works. So but
Mr. Bachman,
Jack Red made a post when you mentioned him. He said, "I'm an artist too." He says, "But the only thing I draw are flies." He said, "When you visit."
Okay, definitely.
Yes, you do. In fact, there's one on your graphic right behind your shoulder there.
Oh, right. And then here's a caricature of me with one coming out my ears.
I love it. You talked about doing shows. Are you got any more this year that your folks can find you?
He he does pinstriping and all that, and he's a fabulous artist and a good friend of mine, but I've been doing a bunch of car shows in Southern California with him, and I think now as far south down by Huntington Beach, Irvine and stuff, but coming up is the Nitro Revival, the 10 by 10 there, and do what I've been doing at the car shows and drawing and spray painting and doing my thing that I do, and then I'm not sure about Moon Eyes yet. I got to contact Chico and see. Awesome. I think a revival is going to be great at Irwindale Dragway.
Save me a selfie, brother.
Sounds great. Sounds great. And the Gibbs family, the Gibbs are just great people. The family and stuff, and Cindy and Steven. But anyway, so that's what's coming
out there with the thought. I'm trying to keep an eye on the having so much fun talking that.
Let me go through some drawings here while I'm.
Let's do it.
Stormy Birds, and
but did we all see Stormy, a student of the sport? Stormy Bird taking on Pure Hill. He must have loved that.
Yeah, he does, and that's the Eagle Fields drag. You know what I mean, right there. Yeah, so it was something I wanted to do. Stormy would appreciate this, So
that's a heartfelt student of the sport. I love. We had so much fun talking to him.
He's a great man. He's a great.
And I love the Pure Hill too. Get Pure Hill, so I got that going for me.
That's a 12 blower. No, holy cow.
Yeah, you got.
Yeah, and there's a fuel. Whenever I have like a hose going down behind something, you know it hooks
Yeah.
us, these things. Everyone builds
Right.
these cars the way they want, so it's like, all right, that
I
looks.
love this, the use of the black with the blue. Yes.
Yeah, I used to like I like because it reflects the sky, you know. And then I used the black on the bottom, which
Yeah.
but then lately it's like, you know, oh yeah, this is going with one eye
Yeah.
jet, you know, twin injected on the top, so that was pretty cool, you know.
Yeah,
So
we can see that, man. And I love my breather
yeah, you like
tubes. Those
them?
look
Yeah,
good. I'm dating
yeah.
myself to the early.
No, you got to have them. It just looks cool. And just put them on. They look good. All
Yeah.
right. Hey, those look good. They're just really glued on. That's good. All right.
You do the best flame. They
Oh
look
yeah,
great.
yeah. That's why I like this one. I like the flames on this
Oh
bad
yeah.
boy.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
That's
that's
flower
that
powered, baby.
yeah. There it is. I got the hippie wagon
So
around
he's like
somewhere
surfing
too,
on
but
top of the injector. That's pretty cool.
he's going through Ventura right now. Look at him. You know, so he's having a good
Yeah.
time. Wow, look at that. Hey man, hey, what's going on? Let's see. But you know, a lot of
Yeah.
times my drawings will just start off with like, you know, I'll just do a quick sketch. I'll do a quick sketch like on a post-it like this guy. You know what I mean? This is just like, you know, this Rat Fink I wanted to for a change and try to do some angles that
Awesome.
people.
Hi, buddy. How
But
are you doing?
anyway.
We got on mute while we're bringing Miss Kay and John. Does anybody else on the chat?
Well, I
Hello,
had
Kay.
there's a question that came in from Kay, and I'll let Kay ask it about. And I believe Jim lives in New York, so he says,
Good
"Good
evening,
evening,
Jim.
everybody."
Howdy, Jim.
I'll
What's
show
going on,
this
Miss
off
Kay?
if I can. Do
Yeah.
you remember this?
Yeah, I
Jill?
think
Nice.
Ben Mitchell and I reunion at Eileen's in Manti at the end of May, beginning of June, and then that was something that Ben Mitchell and I like to do is and I gotta say he's a great artist too, and I love something. Then I would draw something, so we tag team draw stuff,
Nice.
and we did this funny
That
card
looks
here.
good. Is that
You know?
a 68 CUDA that I'm seeing there?
Yeah,
Barracuda?
the Barracuda. No, that's a
Or is that a
Barracuda. Yeah,
Mustang?
I was so
yeah,
touched.
our pleasure. And all the birds
It's the little
appreciate
things.
that a
That's so
lot.
cool.
This is so
We'll
much
get you
fun
back
being
on here
here.
just to kind of wrap up the season, wrap up the year. You know, we got lots more
Yeah.
Mondays to go.
Yeah, maybe
That would
that
be
would be
cool.
fun. Yeah,
Well,
let's
let
think
me
about that for a
ask
minute.
you a couple more things. Like, where can folks find you online if they wanted to? Can folks like order
Yeah,
a custom
just
drawing or
you
something?
can Facebook or Instagram would be fine, and just you know, and just hey, can you do all that? And the quality, it's like what I've been showing online here anyway. But like, oh, okay, and it's like that's what they would get, and I just mount those to mount board and ship them
That's
out.
awesome. Well, I got mine, guys, from
And I'm gonna
Draglist one.
finally,
Thank you so
it's
much.
like,
So yeah, it says it right there in the bottom of the cartoon. But I can't believe it's been that long, but it's been a pleasure the whole time.
thank you. I can't believe the time. Yeah.
That's right.
Mhm.
Miss Kay for finding you and bringing you on. She's our
Well,
executive.
finally,
Yeah, I know earlier this year, and it's like, yeah, that sounds okay. It's like a time. It's time.
That's
Yeah. Thank and
Heck
John
yeah.
and just thank you to just for having me on with you guys. Well, we still have 10 minutes. All right.
well,
All right.
we're gonna
I don't
extend
know,
and talk to Kay as
I don't
long
know.
as we need to, but
I don't know. I'm just trying to look for any other here.
Hey, Jim, I have a question
ask
for
the
you.
dog.
The Bleeder have been friends for quite some time, but I'm not really sure.
Oh,
question.
in person, it had to be the California, one of the California fact. And
Okay.
I remember riding around in his golf cart with him, and he would take me out to the middle out there, where and it's that's where I met Kenny, and he's just a great art. He's a great guy, and it's just a great and a big inspiration. I think it was a fundraiser or something, and I want to do that again, where it's like he's sitting here and I'm sitting here, and he's got his stuff in mind. Or it'd be cool if I drew something, and if you want to do something, when I met Kenny, and I can't give you the year.
That's okay. He's not good with years
Yeah.
either. I just know you've been a few, and
Well,
he'll be
thanks.
at the night. Have to make
Well,
that happen this
yeah.
year.
on the line to get a
Yeah.
hotel room, but we passed. So woohoo.
Yeah, so we don't have to
Good to
dig
go.
a hole underneath the fence to get you in, right?
Yeah,
No,
that's
no. You know what happened
we're not-
last time with that, right?
Right. No, I'm looking forward to it. I love my friends, Steve and Cindy and Steve when they tried it in Bowling Green, the very first one. My
Wow.
son, who was like 12 at the time, now he's 33. So that's
Mhm.
he knocked it out of the park. Of course, the California Outrod Reunion, where I think it
Yeah.
was the year that they were trying to get that nostalgia circuit,
Mm.
that new one that was supposed to be on TV and everything that we thought would happen. But
Yeah.
anyway,
And here we are.
better
Yeah,
time.
better. Yeah, everything is good. Yeah, so we'll see each other
Heck
then
yeah.
there. You know what I mean? So
We'll
that's
be in
good.
big trouble. but,
Yeah,
it'll be great.
and all that nitro flying around through the air and all that, it's gonna be good. What they say in Apocalypse now? It smells like
looks like victory.
victory.
Our chat who wants a final shot at Jeff or you.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Jim Cummings says, "Hi, Miss Kay," and Jeff DeGrandis is a very cool guy.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate
Mr.
that a
Greg.
lot. And you know what? It just, I don't know, staying humble, pay it forward, and just have a good time,
Yes, sir.
people.
That's a
what it is.
challenge. Being humble. I have the same trouble. But
No, I don't know. It's just hope everyone else enjoys it too, So that's
We
about
do
it,
enjoy it very
So,
much. It's wonderful art, and it's unique. I can't think of anybody else that's
well,
doing what you're
thanks.
doing.
I do appreciate that. And it's 60 and all that. I remember some of my earliest drawings were I used to like to draw like old Model A, Model T pickup trucks were my first because
Yeah.
Rat Fink was easy because you can just plump him big right in the back because his big butt would just go back there. It's just a lot of fun. Just thing going, his vision with Eileen and all, the Rat Fink artists and stuff, and just keep that thanks to her too.
Well, we appreciate you. Not too many fun. And then damned if they. And really, when you come back, I definitely would love to talk about some really beautiful paintings that are non-cartoonish. They're really beautiful.
You'll see a lot of that in that. I had to.
I can see the influence,
and all that, and that's a lot of fun. That's a whole other thing on its own,
And Barbara, I haven't seen any of the Peter Max like stuff, but I'm 66 myself, so I went through my Beatles era with all the Beatles Max, the fat ties, and
all that stuff too. He's still at it,
Yeah,
he's in New York. And he's
Oh
doing
my
his stuff,
gosh.
and then you have the Beatles, and you have the Beatles,
It means more Peter Max, more pizza Peter Max.
Still cranking those acrylics and everything else out, and it still looks beautiful too. Beautiful.
Unbelievable. Well, thanks for coming on, my friend. So much fun hanging out with you.
Thank you, Kay, and thank you, Bill, and John. And thanks for asking. It's something I'm going to always remember, and if I could, and that's I'm friends with on Facebook and non-Facebook and everything else. But I appreciate all you guys out there too. Okay, anyway, yeah.
Love you, man.
I love
coming
you
back on, Kay. Keep chasing them. We're gonna.
I love you guys. Okay, tomorrow. I gotta think of something tomorrow. So. I'll think of something
cool. My friend Jeff DeGrandis.
Okay. I guess that's it for now. Yeah, where's our pet dog?
That Courage to Cowardly. That's the other one. It's like the one that was on Letterman. That's what.
Yeah, that's was that Hanna-Barbera? Courage. Who did Courage?
See you later.
Okay, take care, everyone. Okay.
Everybody.
Okay.
Adios.
Bye, everyone.
All right, Jeff DeGrandis, everyone. So great. Got a special tribute tonight and to Kay, and we're going to talk about some really special people, guys.
Thanks, BP. Kay got in touch with me a few weeks ago about doing this tonight, and from reviewing all of the pictures that she sent in and making the graphics and everything for them. And Otto and Lyndon are motorsports finest couples, and Ken. So I'm leaving it to you, Kay. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to thank before that you had done tributes for families who did it too, because you were also, having a hard time finding a few racers to feature this opportunity. And I hope I don't get too emotional. So please understand and be patient with me if I do. But now see, hold on just one second. So my dad with cars began at the young age of 14. I wrote down things just so I don't. So yeah, my dad's obsession or experience with cars began at the age of 14. My dad pretty much taught himself how to work on cars, as he had no other choice other than to live in a car. So he started working in potato fields in Idaho to make some money, right? And he figured out that he was at tearing cars apart at local junkyards. His drive and motivation. So he was quite determined to learn all that. At the best of times, my dad and his buddies would get together and tinker with their cars to obtain his driver's license at the age of 15. Don't know how he did, but he did, right? When he turned 17, he took a company called Apex Cells. And it was about that time he purchased Ford Crown Victoria he called Touch of Cherry. And it was painted red, had a few cherries on it and 2 wine glasses and the name, on there, Touch of Cherry. Once street racing, right? Let the fun begin. I remember my dad telling me stories of heading out on good old State Street with his Touch of Cherry. And that's where that relationship started. And working for a man by the name of John Price. This was the year about 62, repairing fleet vehicles. And that job paid more money than delivering the washers and dryers, right? And 7 months later, my big brother Kendall was born. My dad continued as a husband and now a father working multiple jobs. He managed to continue street racing and working multiple jobs, which allowed him to purchase then to a race car, right? He then began racing in 67. That's kind of up in the air there. My sister was born in 67, and then 1 year later, family and was the last of the litter. I have to mention my dad is the one who chose my name, right? And I remember my mom telling me she fought with my dad on it because she claimed my dad named me after a previous girlfriend. all I can say is I'm glad my dad was victorious, because I don't look like a Christine. I know I did continue to do a lot of street racing, working multiple jobs, which allowed him, let's see here, I just got off track. Seven, my dad, 7 to 7 compete in the Nevada and California. Dad did receive invitations to the 1970 and I still have the letter of congratulations and invitation from Wally Parks and Steve Gibbs that I carry. And I met Steve and Cindy Gibbs at the Lions Automobilia last year at the Hall of Fame event. And it even touched Steve, you know, so that was pretty cool about that. Funny story of competing at the Super Nationals, right? Professionals got invited. Once I showed Kenny those letters, that pretty much ended. When I was doing I've been researching my dad's racing career for many, many years. For me, it took me back to happier times for our family. A needle in the hay racing videos. Sure enough, I found one. I'm not sure if it was from 70 or 71 of my dad competing at Ontario for the Super National. Second clip there. I mean, it shows my dad launching off the line in his 56 Corvette for me. And I was, let's see, I lost for my dad. So my dad started, and then the 56 Ford, I apologize. And then he moved up into a 57 sedan delivery. And he went to the 56 Corvette because it was a lighter weight car, and that meant dad could go faster. My dad started competing in the C-Gas modified eliminator out at Bonneville Raceway Park. From 1970, I have a lot of my dad's 1970, and it was the C-Gas modified eliminator, and there's no miles per hour on that slip, but he did win $60. He was victorious there. Bonneville Raceway on May 13th of 1981. He won an elapsed time of 12.08 at 105.02 miles per hour. And that was in a B or A modified production class. That's mostly what my dad competed. So dad did compete in many, featured in numerous newspaper articles, in programs for the Bonneville Raceway, and he even earned a spot on a poster for an event at one time. In an article I found from 1987, dad's Corvette was powered by a healthy 427 big block with a 4-speed and huge 13-inch slicks. It was also mentioned that dad's vet had a radical appearance, which it did. My dad was just bitching, right? I'm not surprised as to stories, as I've heard a few racers feared running against my dad back in the day. He was an innovator, a tough challenger, seriously, and gave them all a run for their money. Dad has in the Utah drag racing history. And so, you know, for me, I absolutely loved growing up at the racetrack, and I absolutely loved my dad. Like he literally scared me most of the time, or anywhere he went, the ride, because I love spending time with my dad. And here I am today. I'm a girl that thrives on high performance and speed. I quite honestly feel bad for any gents that just keep walking. It ain't gonna happen, that's all I can say. But I look forward to the weekends, as that was when our family spent time together. All of us were happy. We were at the drag strip, the sand dunes, the lake, or just taking a Sunday cruise to Wiener Schnitzel, Baskin Robbins, or out for Mexican food. Hot dogs, ice cream, peanut M&Ms, and his Diet Cokes were his faves. That's one thing I had in common with my dad was food. Since I was the youngest and not a boy, I did whatever I could do. I weighed almost 300 pounds at one time after my parents passed away. Anywhere that my dad could test his toys and our family could all have a good time is where our family spent most of our time. My dad started out with a motorcycle. I believe it was called an Osa. I'm not sure if they still make those or not. My dad and his buddies built numerous doom buggies, and well, my dad's kicked ass. He was referred to King of the Sand Mountain back in those days. As far as boating, my dad started out, I believe my brother referred to it as the tuna tub for whatever reason, but it took our family out on the water. Our second boat was a brown Carina boat, and it obviously wasn't built for the performance and speed my dad was looking for. So our quest for the right boat seriously escalated through the years, and I'll have more to share on boats here in a minute. Cash and fund my home with his friend Ted Jackson, and mom became his official record keeper. My dad did semi-retire from racing in '72 when he made the decision to start his own business at home, making extra money. That same cold winter, moved the Turkelson family into the new residence home in the city of Taylorsville with property large enough and big plans to build a garage, which quickly went up in the spring of '73. That garage was hand-dyed in that home today, where it all began. And up until the time the home garage was built, Dad was running a shop from a company called Davidson Lumber, working at nights repairing AAA trailer and a 68 Chevy one-ton truck, in which he put autos on it, which stood for his name and meant for repairs. The truck and trailer was equipped with personal savings. And that was a lot of money back in those days, and my dad was proud of it. And he also started selling Mighty Distributing Parts that year. In 76, to a 3,000 square foot Quonset hut, not too far from our home. This being after the neighbors complained of speeding, burnouts, and continued noise ordinance violations in our neighborhood. My dad employed a few of his buddies, my uncle and my brother, as well as my mom, for about 2 years. No parts department or boat work just yet. He did begin to develop a list of customers, as well as develop relationships with parts suppliers at that time. And he had 5 full in 77. My dad felt the need to add towing services he offered, as well as any way to generate more income and reduce. Began installing turbos, which created a higher demand of space and employees. Dad's longest term employee, Jeff Harrington, joined the payroll at that time. From there, things got more serious. Since Dad had grown and was in need of a bigger facility, in 1979, he and his friends began building from the ground up a brand new 7th. The location was still very close to our family home, in which I, again, proudly reside still in to this day. And during this time of the new building being built, my dad was contacted by the Salt Lake City Police Department to on the flyer there, the kids off of State Street and onto the racetrack so they could compete safely. And a few of my dad's friends worked for the Salt Lake City Police Department, and they knew his background and his abilities in building engines and tuning them. So they asked for his assistance, and my dad happily contributed. Funny thing with right before the podcast, I received a text from a gal, Jennifer Long, had taken the Race Cop car out to try and get it back up and running after all of these years. She just notified me that it's back in the hands of Lieutenant Lamar Ewell at the Salt Lake City Police Department, and is available for us to take out and show locally here. They closed our drag strip in 2018, so that car has not been raced for many years. There was, I don't know if anyone recalls, there was a Real People, and Sarah Purcell was the host of that show, and they came out to my dad's shop to do a segment on the Race Cop program to give it more exposure, right? And let's see, I have it written down here. I'm sorry. Let's see. There it is. Was also a time when my brother Kendall was also competing. My dad had helped him build a Nova, and my brother was, well, he also had a major need for a race car, and Kendall was doing very well. The night that they came out to do the filming of the show, Kendall was the top contender for that day, so he was featured in that episode. And that's one that we play every now and again, and I have it also on my social media. I have a lot of my dad's memorabilia on there for anyone who's interested, as well as a lot of the other local racers from Bonneville and RMR back in the day. There was also coverage from local news stations on the Race a Cop program during its running out at Bonneville. And like I mentioned, the car is now back in the hands of Lieutenant Ewell from the Salt Lake City Police Department. Let's see. Continued on in the year 1983, the business name changed once again to Autos, Marine, and Sport. And this time my dad had become a dealer for high-end eliminator boats, selling wet bikes, a new toy for the water. Those things were just a nightmare for me, but you know, whatever. It was another toy and another thing to sell and a way to make money. So at the time that the Marine, at that time, my dad decided to add Marine and boat repair service need to grow even bigger. So in the midst of growing and in the year 84 build, name of John Price, my dad did maintain. Well, John Price and his friend Larry Iltson wanted to go to for high performance and speed. My dad indeed built not one, but two off-road Baja trucks for John Price. They took a 4th place finish overall in the Baja 1000, an 805-mile rugged course in 1981. They had another 5th overall finish in another Baja event. I'm not sure if it was the 400 or not. There's, that's been so long ago. They also competed for the event. Dad was also put in the position of being the crew chief for that program, and he managed a team of several men. My dad mentioned in an article that during the Baja 1000, Dad himself drove roughly 5,000 miles during that adventure. All I know is Dad and his buddies had an absolute blast. There's something we don't know about yet, but Yolanda does, but at least he had a good time. So in 1985, an impressive and much needed additional 14,000 square foot building was added to the already 7,000 properties. So yeah, he made it happen. Once again, that expansion was built by Dad by his hands and his friends at night on weekends whenever work was finished, and it didn't interfere with taking care of his customers. The parking lot was just huge. It was paved, big enough to accommodate trucks, trailers, boats, RVs. With the addition of the new building, the space was then allowed for Dad. That same year, Dad promoted Big Brother into the position front desk, and he was constantly tied to a phone. By taking Big Bro off the floor, more concentrate on operating the business. But it didn't mean Big Bro stopped working on cars and of such a driven father. Kendall was out there assisting the mechanics, working on his own vehicles, race cars, maintaining the tow trucks, and his cute, tricked out little S10 parts truck he got to drive for several years. Big Bro's very talented, and he had a knack for customer service. He built and maintained relationships for Dad for many years, which even meant taking on fleet accounts. To add to the madness, in 1987, Mrs. Autos provided. His goal was to make autos a one-stop shop, in which, in my opinion, he well above succeeded that goal. So another addition was made, and now we had a 22,000 square foot facility to maintain. He started by work and custom painting just in that area. As with growth comes, Dad had his hands in a bit of everything with being a boat dealer. In addition, he started custom for boats that could carry water. Intelligent and creative man. Mom was never surprised and always supported whatever decisions or things that he did. Another example, once to compete in the Great American Race, in which he did. Dad had the honor of driving a 1933 Chrysler Roadster down 5th Street in Manhattan, New York on July 4th. After, my apologies, after John Price's Roadster, I traveled with my dad to that trip, and I remember she talking to me about it. It was one that she treasured. In 1988 comes around the addition of adding another line of boats, that of Carrera boat. Was another way Dad could provide more options to his to break often and not always cooperating. So boat part sales increased throughout the years. If you were having any kind of issues with the performance, it came down to what, your trim tabs or what pitch of prop. Like I mentioned in the beginning, but my dad never did graduate from high school. He dropped out early and struggled many, many years with reading and writing, especially on those rare occasions when my mom got him to go bowling, where Dad would challenge you to a game of pool, let alone watching him. My mom sat for hours with my dad assisting mother or grandmother for that. Since we're blessed with the addition of 2 grandsons. Changed things up for my dad, and what a softie he became. My dad wasn't much, had to have one, raised childhood, and that happened in 1990. Dad called her Gertrude. We gathered for every birthday and holiday. Sunday evenings was family. Was always working, even on he complained when holidays hit. Bah humbug for many years, but once again, the grandkids arriving, it changed things a bit. In 1991, my dad switched from turbos and went right to blowers and superchargers. More power for your daily driver, your boat, tow rig, or any race car for that matter. Did I mention we also had a pond for Dad to test the boats in? Yeah, we had it all, and it was a lot to manage and take care of. I believe at this time we were up to 17 full-time employees. Dad took on that responsibility and he took it seriously. He wanted to make sure everyone's families were taken care of, and that of ours as well. My dad pretty much spent his entire day, or as long as he could stay awake, at autos. He lived, breathed, and loved to work. That's what he focused on, and how, and that's just what he did. Our parts department, accessories galore. Anything you needed for your boat, pretty much Dad had it. He even made a decision to take on the service department for another local boat manufacturer or boat service company, Deuce Marine, which added an additional 5 to operate, honestly. And then he took on another line of performance boats. No surprise there. I don't recall the Sioux City became a huge part of the business as well. My dad was recognized as the #1 dealer for Advantage in 1997, which I was able to celebrate with him at the annual boat regatta in Havasu City. He had been photographers during aerial group photos that were taken each year off the London Bridge. My dad absolutely loved boating, and it was another surface in which he was known to test the performance of boats, as well as compete with other boaters. Dad could shoot rooster tails beyond a competitive nature, and he loved hitting that throttle. Funny story in regards to numerous lake trips with Dad and his friends. We would all be sitting on the shoreline, and a boat would go cruising across the lake, and next you look over at Dad and he's looking at his buddies. They go and get in his boat, take off, and they go chasing that guy, right? The rest of us sitting there on the lake. Not shortly thereafter, here comes Dad racing that other guy, usually kicking his ass. You should have seen the rooster tails my dad made back in the day. Not only was he the king, and our family didn't get to spend a lot of time together because Dad was busy operating that business. So our time together was quick trips to the lake. On holidays, we got to have a 3-day weekend at the dunes or the lake. But a lot of Sundays, our family got to go boating, and Dad would put all of us in the boat. And there were a lot of different boats because those were opportunities for Dad to take boats to the lakes to test, right? So we'd get out. So all of us would jump out. So Dad had room to work on the motor, right? So we'd all swim around while Dad's in there tinkering, seeing what he can do to make this thing run. Say, okay, everybody back in. So we'd get back in, short distance, everybody out. So, I guess you had to be there. That was good times for our family. That's what I have to hang on. My dad did take that out to the Monteville Raceway, competing in several graffiti events, right? He was even known to show it off at a few local car shows from time to time, to everybody's delight. There's even a cute story to share about my dear friend Joe Pearson. First day I met him, he couldn't wait to tell me it's all to get mad or something like that. My dad was a tough competitor. The thing that's cool about it is, that's a positive memory. He remembers that vaguely, and that was sometime back in the 80s. He loved to compete, challenge himself, and challenge others. Wheels and tires, what all that meant, but let's see. Now I lost my train of thought. The other thing my dad did is he did compete in an offshore boating race with one of his friends. I don't remember the gentleman's name or where they finished, but I've got pictures of Dad in an offshore dock of the town. He did wet bike races down in Havasu as well. Those wet bikes to me were just nightmares. I preferred the jet skis and the watercrafts. They made for much a smoother ride, and you didn't crash as much. Those wet bikes, yeah, it wasn't good. And then in the year 1991, my dad also decided, well, let's take on snow plowing services during the winter, to keep things rolling and to add a little bit of income. So in addition to 2 tow trucks, the parts truck, and everything else, we now had snow plows and salters to deal with. Marine specialty. The inventory and parts pretty much everything anyone needed for their car, boat, truck, toy, automotive, and boat service under one roof. No job was too big or too small for performance people. We was. Otto's crew was a combination. My dad purchased the top-of-the-line computerized diagnostic and testing equipment that was available by attending conventions and maintaining changes in the market. Pretty much every one of Dad's employees had toys with a love and passion for speed as well. And if you didn't, you soon acquired it. That's for dang sure. Everything that my dad had demonstrated on a daily basis was a true passion for high performance and speed efficiently in his own unique way. You ask people even today, and people will tell you the job from your daily driver, little fishing boat, 4x4, or your blown dragster. He even took part in building of what they called a bummer. It was a mock of the Hummer back in those days. he was just into everything. It was crazy. And again, my mom, she was always there supporting whatever endeavor he threw at her. My dad was also an avid snowmobiler. He was in the final stages of his research and development of a supercharger for his own Duster, and he tested everything to the extreme. Trips in the family motorhome as well were only up, and we'd head out for a weekend of fun. However, my dad was known to run on autopilot. There was many times we'd be cruising along, you'd hear my mom yell, "Otto, are you awake?" My dad, he would be driving, cruising, seriously sleeping. It was scary, but good times. Did you have a question, John? No? Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In
I didn't exactly hear what you said, Kay.
Did you have a question for me?
No, I'm listening to you.
We celebrated 20 years in business, and it was about that time my dad had started giving and had me pretty much doing everything he needed to be for many years. Me, right? Quick trips to California, Havasu to pick up and drop off boats. He trusted me to do the marine finance. I am grateful and blessed that I had that opportunity. As my mom and dad prepared me for the books and kept that business running legally and right on. She kept track of exactly what she did. My mom had many male friends who reached out to her during times of difficulty, and she would do whatever she could to help them. She planned holidays and summer parties, made sure the employees knew how much they were appreciated. She was behind my dad 100%. And she set a great example and was a good woman who made Otto family. Even to this day, that Otto was. My parents passing in the year of 97 wasn't the same. It will be 28 years on November 8th since if I can say how or their life in any way. Grief is a journey. I'll just be lying to tell you the truth. Life just becomes different, especially when you lose the two people who gave you the most to remember. For me, my journey of healing has been to learn to live my life without my parents. So researching my dad's racing career was the beginning for me in 2014. And it was at that time I was given the opportunity to do a fundraiser for another youth organization. And I come up with the idea to do a car show in their loving memory called Keeping Memories Alive, which I did. That Race a Cop car was there at two of my shows. I've continued to do shows on an annual basis, except for this year. I didn't do my own, but I collaborated on one for the kids at the high school. And here's the funny thing is, my dad never taught me the basics of mechanics. The only requirement I had growing up was to drive stick in order to get my driver's license, right? So with doing that, dad says, you break the car, you bring it to me and he'd fix it. So being an advocate for the automotive program up at the Bonneville Garage under the direction of instructor Adam Art has been a dream opportunity for me. I always wanted to be a school teacher, but I never furthered my education. All of us kids and our spouses worked for my dad all those years. Being born and raised pretty much in a garage, being up at the high school, for me, it just feels like I'm home, and what an honor. And I do whatever I can to support that program. Those kids at the high school, they know more about cars than I do, and that's okay. I'm still thriving in this industry and pushing those kids to follow their dreams as well. Today, I'm grateful and blessed to be affiliated with several talented men in a variety of motorsports. My dad took me for rides in pretty much anything that took you for rides on multiple surfaces. So I learned to hang on from a very young age, and I learned to love it. Today, you put me in front of a funny car, my soul just is on fire, right? I love them. I love motorsports. Drag racing will always have my heart. Whenever I'm at a racetrack, I feel like both of my parents are with me, quite honestly. When I hear that first engine roar, it's like my dad is just talking to me. And for me, that's the greatest feeling of all. I carry them with me everywhere I go. Even when I'm up at the school, I feel like my mom is with me. And I'm just grateful and blessed to have the opportunity to share a little bit about my dad's history. My dad, my parents, very well known and still respected in this community today. I'll be out at local car shows and people will come up and, my dad was pretty much known just as Otto, adding in our last name, people couldn't, quite pronounce it, but everybody knew my dad as Otto. And so when I'm out and about and people find out that I am Otto's kid, it's funny. Some people are afraid to talk to me because, when somebody passes away, you don't always know what to say, right? But for me, please come share those positive, fun stories that you have about my mom and dad. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me alive. That's what it's all about. We either fight it or we let it affect our lives, And for me, if anything, I want to encourage anyone, that there is hope after you lose, someone in your life that's close to you. Try to find the peace and move on. Never stop loving or thinking about them. You can fight it as long as you want, but the sun will come up. The sun will go down. It's really up to us what we do with our lives. The others are that share those same passions. That is where you'll find the others who understand and support each of the gentlemen that have allowed me to be a part of their journey in the world of motorsports.
We're glad.
Flying Brian.
We're glad you did it, Kay. It was,
thank you.
I know a lot of love and effort went into it, and it was great. And
a little bit about our family. My dad's, our entire life, it started out, that was my dad, and my mom had a need for speed. She's even the one that there was a couple of funny stories. There was, on the weekends, my mom would come to me and say, "Hey, Kay, you want to go for a ride?" And I'm like, "You betcha." I didn't know if she was going to pull out the El Camino, the Vet, or my dad's pulls out dad's Corvette. And that wasn't, that didn't happen very often. That was my dad's pride and joy. One Sunday we drove down to the shop and where my dad's business is ground, quite honestly, for my dad and many race cars. So my mom, she stopped right there at this, right? My mom lit that sucker up. She ripped down that street as soon out, right? And there's my dad. And he's just sitting there shaking his head, but he had a big old grin on his face. Example, and if it wasn't for her, I may not have, liked it as much either. I'm blessed that I have them with me. So again, I appreciate you guys even allowing me to share a little. I hope I gave enough to, keep it real.
No, we gave plenty. Thank you, Kay. So great. Can you stick around with us while we do the final couple segments? Great guests and
I am so honored. Me, honestly, I love the history. It started with my dad, but I love learning everywhere. So for me, it's an honor, and I can't thank you guys enough for allowing me to be.
We love you, and let's talk about our upcoming guests. Thanks to Miss Kay. Well, let's do Dragfest up in 1989 Funny Car World Champion Bruce Larson's house. Lisa, we're gonna carry me and Jack up the road because Denise is going to be actually so we're gonna get our friends are going to hook us up. Also, as we noted earlier, Nitro Revival up at Irwindale, California, in November 8th to California King. It's been a long, long time since I've seen all of those folks in person. And now, upcoming guests, thanks to Miss Kay. Next Monday night, now he's Hollywood Handsome, and he won his top alcohol dragster event this year, doing a great job. I heard that he's coming back now for the man who takes care of the Buddy Burkett car, top alcohol dragster everywhere else. He's doing a great job, and I think he's got a big career in drag. We'll be off that time, so we won't have a show. But Miss Kay, I think we're working out some interesting names to give you, and he probably got some.
I'm just waiting for everybody to get back in touch with you. I'll say, yeah, I'll get on them.
Well, thank you so much, because it's the hardest job to do. Let's talk about those we lost, folks. 2 racers to mention tonight. On October 3rd, we lost Christopher Martin Williams. He's a top sportsman racer, races some Corvettes. So farewell to Marty. And also one of the great names in super stock drag racing passed away on the 11th, just a few days ago. Steve Bagwell out of Georgia. Steve is an icon in Mopar Hemi Superstock racing, both as a driver and as a car owner. He also competed in pro stock for a number of years and a multiple national event winner. His roster of drivers, including names like Terry Irwin, Richard Griffin, Wyman Barnett, and Jeff Taylor, and just one of the top guys in Superstock and pro stock. So farewell to Steve, and thanks for the thrills, guys. Of course, our condolences to their families and all their friends. So we had a rocking show tonight. Jeff DeGrandis was fantastic. John, do you have any final thoughts on what we witnessed tonight? And you were taking a big part.
Well, you know, I've always looked up to Justin, and I'm glad that he shared so much information with us. I'm looking forward to having him back with us. He was able to articulate so many, and I learned a lot to know. And Kay's tribute to her parents, what can I say? And thank you for doing that, Kay. And BP, thanks for having the show.
I share John's thoughts on the heartfelt tribute you offered. Obviously, still a lot of love for your parents, and I think they raised you. Yeah. So
from the 70 or 71 super nationals on your drag list history.
Sportsman classes. So like Kenny, I'm surprised that there were sportsman racers there, but I'll go.
Well, there was some controversy. They changed the category or something, but my brother, I can't find that.
Okay. Well, we'll take a look. We might have been, you know, and obviously you've got the imitation, so it's very possible with the super nationals, right, to feature the pros. But apparently, some sportsmen who hit a certain level of accomplishment. I mean, Kepner likely knows the entire story. Brett Kepner, as we can fill in. But yeah, your dad obviously very impressive and like basically running the joint there in the Salt Lake area. So congratulations on
I had nothing to do with it. This is just the result of being raised that.
There you go. You're just amazing. My buddy Kay Turkelson, of course. And Rob McCabe, who's making those great edits to the Draglist. Plus Melbourne, they're rewriting the Draglist from the 50s forward in radio and Wingding Media for getting us started many, many years ago. And folks, even if you're watching this on recording, click the like and click the share button channel. And finally, check in on draglist.com every day to see what's new. We would love to say hello. We were thinking about folks down in Florida too. We know that the hurricane hit. It went through the state. I know Don Garland's area was okay. A lot of people, everybody down in the Carolinas and elsewhere from the finally. We'll see you next Monday night for Gary Pond and Miss